Well, hello, folks. Welcome to our Experiments in Artificial Intelligence show. We're going to be talking today about, is AI going to make us all millionaires? And I want you to get involved in the comments. So as you're joining us here, yeah, let us know in the comments. And what we're going to do is, so really, this is what it's all about. This is what it's about today. Is AI really democratizing entrepreneurship? I mean, you're hearing it everywhere. And I just did a little bit of a scour on YouTube yesterday and found all of these thumbnails here. Look at that, all this kind of stuff, which is telling you that you can get rich quick, that it's all about how you can make $250 a day just using AI and putting in zero effort yourself. And well, I don't really think that that's probably entirely accurate. I don't know if you do. Let me know if you think that that's actually possible. In fact, if you have, if you are making $250 a day or more using AI and sitting there scratching your butt, then yeah, let us know in the comments. I would love to hear about that. We're also sort of seeing stuff that there's people on LinkedIn who are very happy to tell you how you can start $1 million business just creating this sort of pipeline of agents and automations so that you don't actually need to take on any employees. That sounds wonderful, doesn't it? And then we start seeing articles like this. So it's all over the place that people are being told that AI can make anyone rich. And I just think that it's probably more like this, but we're going to see if we can dig into this a little bit more deeply. And we're going to do that by going to introduce our first guest of this series. And it's, well, Dr. Eric Zackrison. And here's what AI has to say about him. So this is an introduction thanks to ChatGPT. Come on, ChatGPT, you can do it.
All right, everyone, get ready to meet the guy who basically turned telling people how to talk nicely into a full-blown career. Dr. Eric Zackrison has more degrees than most of us have coffee mugs and spends his time making sure leaders know how to handle a meeting without it turning into a reality show. He's the founder of Effectiveness Consultants, which is a fancy way of saying he's the guy you call when your team can't stop sending passive-aggressive emails. So let's all roll out the red carpet for Dr. Eric Zackrison and his magical ability to make grown-ups play nice in the corporate sandbox.
There we go. Red carpet rolled out. Welcome, Eric. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing splendid. So, folks, so you know that I'm in London, and 8 hours behind me is Eric in Santa Barbara, and it's a beautiful part of the world. I love Santa Barbara. It's a gorgeous city.
Yeah, it's a nice place to live. They charge accordingly, but it's beautiful.
Indeed. So, Eric, you have seen a lot of this stuff that people are saying. In fact, here is what Sam Altman from OpenAI has to say about making money from AI. So he's saying here in my little group chat with my tech CEO friends, I mean, that must be some WhatsApp group. I've not had the invitation yet, but that must be abusing.
I'm on that one.
You're in that one, aren't you? There's this betting pool for the first year that there's a one-person billion-dollar company, which would have been unimaginable without AI, and now it will happen. So he's pretty certain. And then we've got the boss of Anthropic who's saying that, yes, I think it will happen. I'd put it at 70 to 80% probability by 2026.
Yeah.
What's your take on this?
You know, I think it will happen. There's going to be somebody who finds a way to do it. I think most of the people that are making money right now, or I think somebody in the chat already noted, I think Ramon noted, AI is democratizing the AI course grift. There's a whole lot of people making money by saying, I can teach you how to make money. This traditional people have done it for years with all kinds of things, but getting something up to, getting a unicorn with just one person, it's going to be tough, right? I mean, AI helps in a lot of ways, but AI doesn't manage the relationship side, and so I don't know. I don't know. It will happen, I'm sure, but I don't see the path as cleanly.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I've sort of found over the years when I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs and tried to start up my own businesses over the
Yeah.
years and found that I don't personally have really the right personality type to sort of start up a business and start hiring loads of people. I mean, I'm fortunate with the Gen AI Academy.
Yeah.
Helena is
Yeah.
wonderful at
Great.
doing the grown-up stuff.
Yeah.
Because as a stupid a stupid old guy with ADHD, it's not easy for me to do that. But there's certain personality types that are suitable for entrepreneurism.
Yeah.
And for example, I'm listening. Do you know the book Surrounded by Idiots?
No.
So it's a great book.
Yeah.
But I've been listening to that recently, and he talks about different personality types, and he really splits people into, I think, like 4 different colors.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he talks about how entrepreneurs tend to be of a certain personality type. So how does that play in, do you think, with AI? Does AI change any of that? Does it open up opportunities for people who maybe aren't the sort of dominant, more aggressive, tend to be males?
Well, in a way. So I push back anytime anybody tries to say there's these 4 types, because I think people can adjust to situations a little more
Yeah.
than people give them credit for sometimes. But certainly there are. I mean, I opened restaurant after restaurant, and then started. Well, you are an entrepreneur, or you have your own consulting and training business, but it definitely takes a mindset where you have to be a little bit. You have to have some lack of risk aversion, maybe that's something real making you willing to jump that, or a big ego. Like one of those two have to be there. But what I see, because one of the things I do on the side as a volunteer, I work with a couple organizations that I do small business advising. So these are people oftentimes thinking about just mom and pop shops and that kind of stuff. But even that kind of entrepreneurship, I see a pretty good blend. But what AI does is it helps mitigate some of that. Oh, I can't do it. It gives you some tools that help you see the path a little more easily. It helps assess risk, and it helps you take that idea, because a lot of people have ideas and they're not sure if they're opportunities. They're like, it's just an idea.
Yeah.
And AI can help you move that. Is this something that could actually become reality? I think there's still going to be people that are like, yeah, but that means, there's an awful lot of risk in doing this. The other thing is, I think a lot of people don't jump into opening their own business because they don't have the time, right? They have to have their job, right? If I'm not working my 9 to 5, I can't pay rent or my house payment. And so I can't really, I'm trying to get this thing started on the weekends, et cetera. And AI gives the tools maybe to help that a little bit, maybe make that transition a little faster.
Yeah, there's, and folks, just so you know, if you hear any sort of knocks and bangs, there's not people doing clog dancing behind either of us here. Eric's neighbor has decided to, I think, demolish their house today.
You guys
right?
hear? I switched my headphones.
Now, as we're sort of looking at this, this kind of like tech bro hustle culture, find a hack and a shortcut approach that a lot of people have, and particularly I think a lot of the stories that we're hearing of people talking about this have got this. Yeah, I'm just looking for a hack so that it just does everything for me. You've created a course for the Gen AI Academy, which I'm halfway through, and I'm actually putting an actual idea through it at the moment that I'm testing it on. Because Eric's course isn't just about, okay, sit back and listen. It's actually, here's worksheets. You're going to work through this. You're going to take your idea and here's prompts you're going to use. And the whole thing, your approach is about using it to sort of elevate your thinking and try and create something that's more robust at the end.
Yeah.
And I can see from your approach that the way you're doing it, that actually you're using AI in this in a way that if you don't have a budget and you're doing it in your spare time, AI might not be the same as actually going out there and doing a whole load of market research, but really it's a close thing.
Yeah,
It's
it
better
is.
than doing nothing. Could
Yeah.
you explain a little bit more about your approach?
Yeah. Well, so I always, I had somebody in a chat the other day say they should change it from artificial intelligence to artificial assistant to like help people realize that it's not you shouldn't be making it do everything for you. There's got to be a human in the mix. So you can tell AI, come up with a business idea, etc. But is that something that is you, that you're going to like, you're going to enjoy, that you're going to be able to take kind of through? But it starts with this idea. One of the things that's the most challenging is I've got this idea. Is there a market for it, and what's that look like, right? And so the first few times I did this as an entrepreneur, and then I helped people before AI. It's a drudge, right? To do it right. That if you really want to make sure, is there a market for this, and where is that market? AI makes that lightning fast.
Yeah.
I was actually on a call yesterday, and we were talking with another platform that does online education, and we were talking about the certification market to get certified for like Project Management Institute and all those. And they're like, well, yeah, we haven't really done that yet. And I was like, hang on, and had Gemini. And by the time the meeting was over, we had a detailed report of all of the certification places, the process they go through, everything. And that's something that AI can help you with your business idea, right? That you can, it just makes all that drudge work faster, but you've got to give it the context. You've got to give it your idea.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not going to be you. You're not going to love it, and it's not going to come to fruition. That's kind of one of the biggest pieces, I think. And then throughout, as you're going through the process, right, as you're thinking, okay, how's the market? What's this idea look like? Do I need to pivot? How do I pivot? And it's all about asking the questions and giving it the context, and then keeping you in the mix, right? It's always keeping your idea in the mix, because you're the one that's going to have to bring it to fruition.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, as somebody who is an entrepreneur at heart, and you've had your businesses, your restaurants, what are the things that you have found that when you've started up businesses that have surprised you? And if you, in today's world of AI, do you think it would have been easier for you starting up those businesses if you'd had the technology then?
Yeah, I think in one way, I think you can find, so my first restaurant was a fine dining restaurant. My second one was a beer bar, but it was mostly focused on just having the widest selection of beer possible and good food. And this was a time when American craft beer this was 2003. So American craft beer kind of started and was going, but there wasn't anything. So I could do some market research in my area and see what was going on. But without me having traveled, I wouldn't have known that there were other cities that the kind of beer hall that has a ton of beer, like really wide selection of beers, like 100 bottles and 40 on the wall, was something that was growing. Right. But AI, now I could just sit in my living room and go, what are some of the trends in this industry? And it can help identify those trends in ways that then you can look in your own market and go, is that something that's happening here? I think that's one of the ways that it would make things easier and help, pivot. Or if you're, so kind of an interesting thing with this, it doesn't, even if you're in business already and maybe sales are a little sluggish, you can use the same idea to go, all right, so here's what I do. Here's my ideas. Let's look at the market and think about, I've got some ideas of how to pivot. Is this a pivot that would work? Is this something going on somewhere else? So it certainly would have made me, made my thought process sharper, I think.
Yeah. And there is, I think, amongst younger generation, we're sort of seeing that one of the impacts of AI is that there's less entry level jobs for people who are in a younger generation. And that seems to be having an impact where younger people are looking at entrepreneurial approaches. But one of the things that I've found is actually what has led to my businesses over the years is the experience I've had, that I have built up, and the knowledge I've had from sort of working in a larger organization. And we seem to be getting this, I think it's an exciting time, but also not, because not everyone is suited to being an entrepreneur, probably quite a scary time for a lot of people in younger generations.
Oh, yeah.
But are you seeing from, as you know, with your teaching at university, are you seeing that with the sort of younger generation that they are more entrepreneurial now than they used to be?
You know, it's a little tricky for me because I work I've got an odd subset of college students. They're college students that are taking business courses, so they tend to be already. And what's interesting, and they're students. So the department I teach in, it's a certificate program that gets students from across campus. So I get biology, I get econ, I get mechanical engineering, but they're in specifically because they're thinking about leadership and management and business. But I do find it seems like they're embracing the idea, because so in my strategy class, we go pick a company and come up with a new strategic thrust. In the marketing class, they have to come up with a new idea. And I find them embracing that much more readily, I think, than in the past, certainly the new idea. What I'm seeing, interestingly, is more students who the class is done, and they take that idea and go, okay, can we run with this idea? And so I think that's one of the key differences I'm seeing. But again, I can't tell if that's just that I've got a bunch of that I get these students from UCSB that are interested in entrepreneurship, or if students are becoming more interested in entrepreneurship. So that's kind of
yeah, interesting. I guess it's a self-selecting community that you've got.
It's a bit, yeah.
So, you know, what even when we're sort of looking at sort of perfect AI-assisted planning, do you think there are certain human capabilities that remain absolutely essential for people's success as an entrepreneur? And what do you think they could be character traits, it could be experience, it could be knowledge, it could be social connections. What do you think it is that is absolutely vital really to success or increases your chances, I guess?
Well, network is key, right? It's like us connecting, right? That kind of builds both of our careers a bit. It's and so this idea that we have of this with this course, it can get you, like, it walks you through. Let's analyze the market. Let's take this idea. Let's create a go-to-market strategy, including what your marketing and your message is going to look like and needs to look like. How are you going to connect? Who is your audience? But once you're open, you still have to get those people in, and marketing, particularly traditional marketing, just isn't all that effective for a lot of businesses. What is people want to give money to people they trust and know, organizations they know and trust, right? And so we still have to build that. And again, AI can help in that. AI can help me with my social media marketing, but if I'm not careful, people will feel like if people get the sense that they're just communicating with AI, they're not going to give me their money, right? There's got to be a relationship. And certainly if we're looking at like software still, right? If I've got to convince somebody to buy my software, there's a relationship thing there, right? But certainly if I want to get somebody into my business, I want somebody to buy my trinket that I'm making, whatever, there's relationships involved in that require something that AI just can't do. And I'm not sure it really will effectively for some time.
Yeah. So we've got a comment here from Edith. Now, she's saying that she's been told that she's risk averse, but she doesn't really see it that way. She's all about probabilities, saying entrepreneurship isn't the absence of risk, it's the strategic pursuit of a higher probability outcome. Is that one of the things that you sort of are able to look at? Are we able to use AI to help us work out these probabilities, to give us, I guess, more comfort in taking that risk?
I think that's one of the key things it does, right? That it helps us, because we can only process so much data, right? That I could, one of the things with opening a new business or a new strategic thrust or anything is, we there's always some uncertainty. And a lot of that uncertainty is due to constraints on time and energy and the ability to process information. AI eliminates a lot of that. AI can look through vast amounts of information to give you a better grasp on what are the chances this is going to be a reality. It's still a risk, but I think it reduces it significantly, right? If you're able to look at, like, first, is this an idea that's already out there? If it's out there, how successful has it been? That is harder to do just due to time constraints.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Absolutely, and it's. I mean, it used to be that we had to Google this stuff.
Yeah.
But even at that, you were. You couldn't be 100% certain when you were Googling it that you'd got all the information or that the information was correct. And I guess that's one of the issues that we have with AI. Do you think there's risks of, like, hallucinations or people being given information that might not be entirely accurate or could be selective in the way that we get survivorship bias or whatever?
Well, I think there's two issues with that. One is, are we not looking at failures? But you can prompt it on that and make sure, giving it the context. I want you to find examples of failure and success in this realm. What are the chances? There are potential hallucinations, which is why we need to be really careful and look through and validate, right? That's the human in the mix. We need to validate stuff relatively often. The other risk with that is we've got to give it, and again, this is an idea that we're not letting AI, this whole idea, again, like AI, I'm going to use agents and it's going to make me $1 million, right? You've got to keep something in you, for individual life. If we're all sitting around going, oh yeah, I'm going to just make ChatGPT, and I'm going to create these agents and they're going to go make me a bunch of money. What happens? Or companies, if we're just using AI to create all of our marketing, eventually everything's just going to be the same, right? Because it's like, what's a good business idea? It's going to tell you the same thing it's going to tell me. But if I give it more context, like, these are the things I'm interested in, this is where I'm thinking about doing, et cetera, then you start being a partner with it. And then you start getting something that's original. But again, with the hallucination, like, you've got to check and make sure it's right. Most of them are hallucinating less. But the other day, I have a chat bot for my class for them to ask questions, and I was testing it, and it was like, it said I wrote something to the students, and I was like, that writing doesn't exist, and I didn't write it. Like, why did you do that? Like, oh, you're right. ChatGPT is great about admitting when it was wrong. But I was like, where did that even come from? So it's still doing it. That's
it. I mean, it's the sycophancy that it's got as well. But that whole thing where they're very fast to apologize. No, you're absolutely right. You're totally right there. And it's something that Lucy was saying here. Good information gets diluted in the sludge of poor and false information.
Right.
How do you make sure that you look at the right stuff? I think you've covered that there. Yeah. But Roman is saying here, Eric, can you elaborate more on how to use AI to get around survivorship bias? Maybe a specific example, because that's been a concern of his when he's been using it to do market research.
One is to ask it to look for failure. Now, that's always a challenge, because there's companies that are successful get written about more than companies that aren't, right? And so it is a challenge. But the more that you kind of dig into the data, the more that you kind of ask it for examples of things that didn't work, and it still should be able to find some of that. And the one thing I think that's important, and this helps both with that idea of just looking at survivorship, but also the sycophancy, right? That I think is so problematic. And I think this is a really important thing if you're using ChatGPT or Gemini or anything to help validate your business idea, that they're designed to please you. Yeah. So if you just go, hey, this is an idea, this is a good idea, they're gonna be like, hey, you're so smart, it's a great idea, and it might not be, right? And so you've got to train it to to be the person in the room going, hold on a minute, right? Maybe this isn't a good idea. That's one of the ways you can get around that survivor bias, by asking it, like really making it, training it to say, this isn't a good idea if it's not a good idea. That's not your market if it's not your market. Because if you tell it, I really want to sell, this thing to 18 and to 24-year-olds, it's going to come up with every way possible to do that, and maybe not tell you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, I think that's a huge one. There's just yesterday I was training a company on how to get more out of prompting from the AI tools. And one of the things I was talking to them about is, like, in your custom instructions or in the settings or whatever it is it's called in the AI tool you've got, you should be putting in there, do not compliment me. Do not praise me for my ideas. I want you to be critical. I want you to try and poke holes in what I'm saying and tell me how I could improve them. Challenge me at every opportunity. And that, I think, is so important, and particularly when it comes to this, because I think there is a massive risk if people they like the little dopamine buzz they get of even an AI tool patting them on the back and going, "You've been a good boy. Haven't you been a good boy?" and I think that we need to get them being more confrontational with us to try and shake the tree and get to the good stuff. And do you have any techniques for that?
Well, actually, I want to go two things with that. One, I think that's one of the really great things about AI, because if you're just somebody it's coming up with a business idea, you're super excited about it. Your friends and family are more likely to be like, "Yeah, oh, we love you. It's a great idea," and you might not have people around you that either, well, that, or maybe you're the type of person that is going to scream at somebody if they disagree with you, right? Either one of those things. People sometimes don't tell you it's a bad idea. They let you run with it. How many people have we seen on, America's Got Talent or one of those, who their family have told them they can sing their whole life, and then they get up there and they're like, they can't sing, right? Same thing with business ideas. ChatGPT doesn't really, if you tell it not to care, not to be nice, it'll not be nice. So I think what you're talking about is exactly being explicit. I want you to challenge me, right? I want you to tell me why this might be a bad idea. Those things, right? Because it's like, all right, I'll do that. But if you tell your mom to do that, she's like, oh no, you'll be fine. So, well, most moms, some moms maybe not.
Now, one of the things that over the last few years, I've heard people throwing around the phrase "intrapreneur," which makes me throw up in a bucket in the corner when I hear it. But does the sort of thinking around starting your own business, like the kind of stuff you talk about in the course, does that translate to people who are trying to do projects and set stuff up inside businesses as well?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I think that's an important thing. I think, fostering an entrepreneurial mindset in your employees, in your companies is wise, right? You want people thinking creatively. You want people taking measured risks, right? And that's really what the idea is. And so, if you're a division that's looking at, going into a new product line, or going into, a new geographic market, these same techniques work for that, right? It's still the same thought process. Is there the market? Is this a good idea? Am I thinking clearly? Where could this go wrong? How do I take that next step? So yeah, 100%.
Yeah, brilliant. We've got a little question here from let's see, John Smallstay, saying, are you able to adjust the settings in Gemini? Just a little quick tech thing there. Yes, in Gemini you actually go into the settings, and when you go there is an opportunity for you to add little pieces of text. Although if you're in a corporate version of Gemini, that may be that setting may be switched off. Yeah. But if you've got your own version of Gemini, then yes, you can go into the settings and you can add your own instructional text. So absolutely.
But you can do it in the interaction as well. Even if you can't do that setting, you can ask it, okay, now tell me why not.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we're looking at this idea of AI's role in entrepreneurship, and particularly when we're looking at doing it in a responsible way here, where we're using it to strengthen people's thinking, make their idea more robust, all of that that approach that gets us to something that's stronger and has got a greater chance of succeeding. What are your hopes for this? Do you think we are going to see a new era of startup businesses that are actually going to solve problems and maybe sort of give a shit about society rather than the people, or is it going to be balanced with the people who are just out there to try and grab money and do things for a shortcut without getting out of bed?
Yeah, I would love to be optimistic, but I'm sure there'll still be a balance, right? I think this is going to give an awful lot of people the chance to start businesses that hadn't before. As I noted, one of the organizations that I do some volunteer work with is Women's Economic Ventures here in Santa Barbara County, and they strive to encourage and develop entrepreneurship in underrepresented groups, right? That we know that women historically have had more challenges in opening businesses. I mean, it wasn't even that long ago. It was the 70s when women couldn't get loans in their own name. I mean, it's ridiculous how long ago, right? So fostering that, and I see, and these are small ideas, right? This is I'm going to open a taco truck. I'm going to open a small jewelry business, all the way up to I'm going to start a software company. But it makes it easier. It democratizes it in a lot of ways, and creates some equity where you don't have to have. You can do it and have a full-time job, right? You can do it and not have a ton of money. And so I think that we're going to see certainly smaller businesses are easier to build, but I think in larger companies as well, right? That we're going to see, as I see in my students that are coming up with ideas that they're hoping are going to be kind of the next big tech thing. And all of the businesses that are driven by AI. Like we have I've got a meeting with some students tomorrow that have a company called Raise Math that they won our new venture competition in the department last year, that is using AI to be math tutors, right? So I think we're seeing those things come together. And I think we are coming to a time where we're going to see a lot more entrepreneurship, in large part to what you said earlier. I think, companies are going to need less people, and we know what companies do, right? Companies aren't going to be like, oh, we're going to keep people around when we don't need them. There's going to be some exits in the marketplace, in the employment. And I think some of those people are going to go, all right, I'm going to go out, I'm going to try this new thing.
Yeah. And when you're young enough to be able to take a risk like that, because right, you don't have to keep up the car payments and health insurance for your kids and whatever else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Eric, this has been great. We could chat for hours on this, and it's always lovely hanging out with you and having a chat. Folks, if you are interested, there's a little QR code. I don't know if that comes up clear enough on your computer. That if you want to see Eric's course, you can see that up there. And yeah, I just want to thank you so much, Eric, and thank everyone who's been involved in the comments. There's been some great comments going on. If you are watching this on Watch Again and you're not watching it live, still get involved in the comments. Ask us questions. We'll come back and visit the comments and do our best to answer your questions. But I just want to say thank you very much, Eric. Thank you, everyone, for getting involved. And I'll be back in about 2 or 3 weeks with another one of these shows after I've had a half-term holiday with the kids.
Nice.
All right, folks. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Bye.